Welcome to Universal Theory, where the goal is to find a common language between the abstract and concrete. We are the unorthodox representation of physics and metaphysics. During the time that we have with you, we will discuss all that is potential and equally possible. I'm Jordan.
And I'm Trent.
And together, we are Universal Theory. We welcome you on this journey of scientific and metaphysical exploration, and we hope that any information that is conveyed or professed by either of us is of the utmost importance, value, and of practical use in your everyday lives.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Universal Theory. I'm your co-host, Trent. Joined as always, Jordan. How you feeling? Oh, yeah, that's how you're feeling right now?
Yeah, you see it.
Yeah, I see it. Flexing the merch. Mm-hmm. By now, the merch store should be up. Mm-hmm. We are working on vibrating that into existence for you, for you diehard supporters out there. We know you're diehard if you're here right now at the beginning, baby. Mm-hmm. And what we're working on bringing into existence or vibrating onto existence is the Patreon. And actually, it's here. So that worked. The Patreon exists now. If you'd like to go and help support the vision, you know, watching the videos is great. Sharing this video would actually help us more than the Patreon right now. So if you're in your head, I don't have the money, I want to help them, but I can't. Really, sharing this video is worth more than money. We want to get this message out. It's not about the money. The money will help buy animations. The money will help pay for us to go and do different things for the podcast and record it in different places. We have some great ideas of where we want to take the podcast. But right now, it's about getting the message out. And it'll always be about getting the message out. And that's why I want to give a special shout out to Nathan and Ashley. Thank you. You guys were in the comment section asking questions. Ashley is a friend, so she was talking to us directly as well. But we really appreciate you two, and everybody else who's been active in the community, commenting and liking and sharing. It means more than you know. We spend a lot of time on every single video and every single short and everything that we bring to you. So to know that you'll take some time out of your day to reciprocate, it just means a lot. And so, speaking of the podcast, this is Season 1, Episode 4, Vibration. Everything vibrates, nothing is at rest. If you are tuning in for the first time and you haven't seen the previous videos, they'll be above. But you can either pause this video now and go watch them or watch this video. There might be some lingo that we described in the previous videos that you might not catch, but we usually give a pretty good definition when we use those words, and we usually, we talk about it. So feel free to chill. It's a vibe. And speaking of vibes, man, I'm feeling the vibes of vibration right now. Yeah. Everything vibrates. Nothing is static. Nothing is at rest. It doesn't matter what we're talking about, down to the very fundamental nature of everything. When we think of quantum field theory, which I'll get into later, that is vibrating energy. And there's this thing in physics called absolute zero. Maybe you've heard of it, but it's negative 273.15 degrees Celsius. And it's theoretical because we've never reached it in a lab, right? We've calculated and done these calculations. What does it take for us to essentially have something that is standing still? And we've gotten closer and closer over the years with technology, and now we're within like 38 billionths of a degree. So, just a few sig figs out. But we're still not there, and what we're noticing is the more tech, it's only getting us, it used to get us a few degrees, and now it's only getting us a few billionths of a degree. So it's an asymptote, right? The temperature is tangent to the temperature that we're getting is tangent to that theoretical absolute zero, and it always will be. We'll never hit that, because when something ceases to vibrate, it ceases to exist. Therefore, we would be destroying energy, which we know with conservation of energy, we can't do that. So that's, a very kind of hopefully open your eyes to what I mean when everything vibrates and why we can't ever hit that point.
Yeah, exactly. Like he said, so if it doesn't vibrate, then it doesn't exist. So it's not like an object, which is comprised of energy, could actually reach absolute zero and then cease to exist, because the principle of vibration is also coupled with the principle of cause and effect.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have energy, you cannot create it nor destroy it. You can't add to it or take from it. You can put it in transition where energy can get transferred and conserved, and you can transform it into an infinitude of different things, but you can't eradicate it.
Right.
Nor can you create it. And that goes, into the whole concept of there being a God or something outside of creation that doesn't have these qualities, at least in an infinite sense. But it doesn't have these qualities at all, and it's beyond these qualities, yet it influences these qualities. And the thing is, and this is, a very complex subject, but if it doesn't possess the sum total of vibration, then it can't interact with vibration, and it can't manipulate vibration. It can't manipulate matter or energy, because it has to be comprised of matter and energy, or energy and matter, because energy precedes matter. But it has to be both of these things. It cannot be the absence of it. So when we think about God, a lot of times we've talked about it being the wave, and not to say that the wave is conscious or not conscious. It's just to say that the wave is this infinite background of vibratory frequency that manipulates our reality. And from the standpoint of this infinite background energy, there is perspective. And this perspective, whether mechanical or not, is the superposition.
Yep.
And every possible vibratory and geometric shape is determined by this background idea of creation.
Yep. Yeah, and when we see the appearance of the absence of something, like Jordan was talking about, if we don't see motion, it doesn't mean that it isn't, right? Two waves can come together and they're additive, which means that if two waves are traveling towards each other, if the peaks hit each other and the troughs hit each other, then it's a much larger wave. But if one of the peaks hits one of the troughs and the other trough is going to hit the other peak, then neither of them are there anymore. But it doesn't mean that we started with nothing. It just means that the sum total of this vibration coming from two different endpoints is nothing. Or what I like to say, the sum of the two things, which they cancel each other out. And also what Jordan was saying, it's the nature of things, right? The nature of things vibrates, and resonant frequency is what everything has. Everything has a certain frequency, and when I use the word frequency, it's synonymous with vibration, except frequency is measured in how many times it vibrates per seconds, if we're talking about hertz, right? So there's a little bit of nuance there, but I'm going to use them pretty much interchangeably. And so with resonant frequency, just picture that most of us have probably seen something on the internet or something somewhere. There's probably commercials back in the day of an opera lady, singing and hitting a high note, and some guy's holding his wine glass and it explodes, right? And it just busts all over the guy. And if it wasn't for the opera singer hitting the resonant frequency, and it was just because of pure amplitude, then there'd be a lot more problems than just a wine glass busting, right? If everything had the same resonant frequency, then she would be, busting her eyes, and it would be a gore fest. And that's not, please don't picture that, but that's what would happen. So we're hitting the resonant frequency of the wine glass, and it's it can't. It's when you hit its resonant frequency, it's like another kind of picture of that is when you're pushing your daughter on a swing, and she's higher daddy, and you push as soon as she kind of gets to the highest point back here, you push her forward again. So now she's getting higher, right? And that means you're pushing her at the resonant frequency. It's just on a macro level.
Yeah.
So it's just saying, hey, we're going to put more and more energy into these molecules that are moving. And this can be misconstrued with spirituality, that I just need to meditate and increase my vibration and increase the intensity at which I vibrate. And that's not true. It's locking into specific vibrations. And there are certain religions, if you want to call them that, spiritual walks, that delve deeper into the idea of vibration, and obviously this is one of them. So that shows that it is a fundamental piece, because we see it in these different places. But what Jordan and I are trying to do is kind of bring it all and tie it all back into science. And right now what we're talking about is just, where's this applicable? Can you guys show us why vibration is a thing and where we see it? And the reason why you hear us right now is because vibration is a thing, right? Vibration is all around us.
Yeah, exactly. And the vibration of the environment can determine how your brain processes information, whether you're awake or you're drowsy or you're tired, or if you're in a coma or you're in a somnambulistic trance, or you just had a seizure. It's like the environment internally and externally vibratorily determines our reaction to it, and our reaction is a vibration, like that tuning fork, and reaching that resonant frequency. If you do certain mantras in general, and this could be globally, but then this also could be regionally, because you have different types of mantras, and maybe certain people's biological systems don't respond as well as others to certain frequencies, because we all have different frequencies. We all vibrate by nature, but each human being has, like, your organs in your body have different resonant frequencies, and then you as an individual would have a resonance frequency. So everything is relative, and we apply specific methods in general, and generally they work, but not the same. It's never identical. You're never going to get an identical result, because every vibration is like fingerprints. They're all unique, even if you can lump them in categories together. So, but they have these methods, like in mantras, for example, where you go through the chakras, and you go through the 7 basic chakras, because there are more than 7 chakras. These are just the main ones, and they correspond to different plexuses of nerves and glands in the body, and we can get into that a whole nother episode. But when you're going through the 7 basic ones, from Hinduism, you have Lam, Vam, Ram, Yam, Ham, and then you have Om, and then you have Ah. So Lam is pronounced lung, so it's like lung, and then Vam is wung, and then Ram is rung, and then Yam is jung, because the Yam is actually like yoga, it's yoga, so it's jung, and then Ham is hung, and then Om. And then Om is sacred, even though it's for the third eye chakra. It's very sacred because it's Ah, U, So it's the way you position your mouth. And you get a full range of frequency. Ah, U, like going through the alphabet. So, they manipulated their bodies like tools or instruments to produce certain frequencies to align their biology.
Right.
And to adapt to nature.
Yeah, not just to amplify it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And back to what he was saying about, we like to think that it's about increasing our vibration. And it's not always about increasing the vibration, because like you said, if you increase your vibration too high, you could rupture the harmony of your cells and rip your body apart. Like if there's a decibel level, if you're too close in proximity to a car or a truck or some type of speaker producing a certain decibel level, it could kill you. Your ears will start bleeding, your eyes will pop out of your head, like it could literally kill you, because it's rupturing the harmony of that system. So it's not about increasing the frequency. It's not about decreasing the frequency. It's about finding the necessary frequency or the resonance frequency. And everything has this. For example, the sun is very massive object in the center of our solar system, makes up like 99% of the mass. It's got a diameter of like 1.4 million kilometers, surface temperature in the photosphere of like 5,500 degrees Celsius, and then the core, the nucleus where nuclear fusion happens, it's like 15 million degrees Celsius.
Yeah, something insane.
Yeah, 27 million degrees Fahrenheit. And then you got to think about all of this energy that it produces. If the organism, like the planet, it's an organism. If this organism, with the tiny organisms that we are on it, if it didn't have an atmosphere with a magnetosphere, then it wouldn't be able to block off this radiation. So it's not just about increasing the frequency, it's about finding the stable, the necessary resonance frequency. So the planet, it has a magnetosphere which protects us from a lot of this radiation that comes from the sun, though we need the sun. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
And
just
then,
like we need the energy coming from whatever, from the wave.
Exactly.
But we have certain mechanisms in place that protect us from that. And then as we grow spiritually, then those mechanisms grow and more comes in. We are allowed to let more of that energy in. But bringing it back kind of just to a practical use. Have you ever walked into a room and it just feels off, and you know that the person's in a bad mood before you even talk to them? You know that this person has been shouting at the walls and they've been projecting, right, these vibrations, because humans have the ability to filter. We can filter, and as we've talked in mentalism, transmute some of these vibrations from lower to higher, right? And turn kind of your frown upside down, to say it finally. But the inanimate objects around you just receive, right? They're just receiving and then projecting they're just kind of like a mirror. So that's why when you walk into a room where someone's been upset and possibly yelling on the phone or, just talking to themselves in a negative manner, that you can feel it. And that's because you are feeling those vibrations. You're feeling that energy before they even get a chance to say, honey, you didn't pay this bill and you didn't do this and I hit this and the dog's dead. And, you're like, I knew it was coming. That's why you knew it was coming, right? Because these vibrations exist and are reciprocated by our environment. So then it's going to be the same thing. You walk into a place of love, or you walk into a place where, like shops, where, they're burning incense, not necessarily, doesn't matter, you could burn incense and be an angry person. But, the smell's there, and then you also have the vibe of, love and compassion. You can feel that. Yeah. And I think that's what people feel in church, or when they go into these different buildings and they say they feel the Holy Spirit. They're feeling the vibrations that these walls and that these inanimate objects, that space itself is giving back, right? So that's kind of demystifying a bit of why you might say you feel something. It doesn't take away from it. Please don't take that I'm saying, oh, well, Trent just explained it, so now it's not cool anymore. Because that's not what I'm trying to do. All I'm trying to say is now the next time you feel it, you can be like, now I know why I'm feeling this. And hey, maybe in my bedroom, I want to sit here and say some affirmations and tell myself how beautiful I am in the mirror and these kind of things to transmute that energy in those rooms.
Yeah, exactly. And you can use internal and external methods. Like, for example, if it's a church, like he said, it's a holy place, or, it's just you're outside. You could be, surrounded by trash and you could change your perspective, or you could clean up all the trash and you could plant flowers. So internally you could transmute it just by changing your perspective, and then externally you could change it by manipulating the environment and altering the aesthetics and practicing feng shui, basically reorganizing everything in such a way where it has a certain geometry and a symmetry to it, and then that will impress your brain. So some of these guys, their mother or father might have told them, hey, clean up your room, because if your room is messy, your mind is messy. And that in general is applicable, but then you have some people that, could live in the mess and still be in an orderly state. Mm-hmm. I would say those individuals are probably more rare statistically, but it's a matter of perspective. Everything boils down to perspective, but you can also change the environment, change the frequency of the environment, and then change your internal environment if you can't already change your internal environment first. So, in Kabbalah, they say that if you want to produce a desire, because everything is about our desires, you have a desire for the ego or an egoistic desire, or you have an altruistic desire. Place yourself in the environment that will induce those corresponding vibrations that are necessary for your growth and development and maturity. Mm-hmm. And, going back to talking about like music is very influential.
Yes.
And people will listen to music, and some people will go and, plant a garden or heal the world or hug someone or ride a bike or take a run or go jog. And someone might do a drive-by and kill a bunch of people.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Or, manipulate the stock market and, I want to make $1 billion. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that music is that influential to where whatever you're listening to, most of the time we are very easily influenced without knowing it, especially with something like music. And like Trent said, we have the capacity to mentally transmute these conditions, unlike, equal in nature, different in degree. So I'm not going to say that rocks can't transmute vibrations or minerals or crystals, because they can. And you have certain objects, inanimate objects like rocks and minerals and crystals and things of that nature, where they can emit certain frequencies and change our vibrations.
Right.
But in general, they're absorbing for the most part, and we're more malleable and plastic than any other species on the planet. So we can not only receive vibrations, stimuli from our environment, but we can also reflect upon it and project back consciously, which is not something that every inanimate and animate object can do as readily and as easily as the humanoid can with the higher level of mental development.
Yeah, and our faculties were kind of built for that.
Yes, exactly.
We have things like eyes that are picking up on photons, packets of photons around us, right? Vibrating packets of photon, and it's giving us information to survive. And we have things like taste buds, where things have a certain resonant frequency, and we call those chemicals, and they touch our tongue, and because they have a certain intrinsic makeup or frequency, then it tastes a certain way. So because the way that the human body, as we've talked about in the past, it's, we've built these faculties in order to perceive our reality, in order to leave inside and experience the external. Right, we've talked about that. So with our senses, right, touch is the same thing. We're not actually touching something. We are getting close, and then there's electrons that are pushing our fingers and that are pushing the table, and that's what feels like touch. Those electrons getting close and repulsing each other. But like Jordan was saying, we have the ability to take in that data and then decide what we're going to do with it. The one that we don't is the olfactory. Right? That can pass through our conscious mind, and it's just going to go straight to our brain. Afterwards, we can plug our nose or whatnot, but that's one of the one senses. If I believe that's right, that's one of the one senses that can actually bypass our conscious mind and go straight to our subconscious.
That's a good point, because all things, like we said before, all things can do this, but just not at the same capacity. And for example, plants, we talked about plants before, but the root system of plants have been known to vibrate. They produce certain vibratory frequencies at certain hertz, depending on what the species is and the root type and how large or small it is and the environment that it's in And if there are objects in the way, for example, the larger root systems normally vibrate at lower frequencies, and then the smaller root systems normally vibrate at higher frequencies. And then that, like I said, it's relative to the species and what type of environment it's in, and if it's interacting with objects, because it will vibrate even higher when it's interacting with objects, because it's trying to navigate its environment to learn where to grow and when to grow in those directions and how far to grow. And then they also have other vibratory mechanisms of communication, equal in nature, different in degree. Like they can send chemical signals, and they can draw in nutrients through this process, or they can remove or push away a predator or other root systems that are growing towards them. They can warn other plants about predators and other dangers in the environment. And it can communicate with the mycelium, the mycorrhizal mycelium. So plants can also communicate electrically and magnetically as well. And we also have this capacity. Once again, it's just of a greater magnitude, equal in nature, different in degree. And everything in life does this. These are not the only examples. Everything in life communicates through vibration, and those vibrations can be translated in a multitude of ways. I just said mechanoreceptors on the root system of a plant allow it to detect vibrations, pressure.
Just think how crazy that is. Like the way you said it, it kind of kicked in with me. Like I just said, plants are talking through vibration. That's why I laughed. It's when you said that, vibrations is the core of how two things that are seemingly separate communicate. That's the fundamental idea of communication, of reciprocity, of trying to not be alone, is to communicate. Trying to live in harmony. They call it living in harmony, and harmony is a vibration, right?
Yes.
It's a set of vibrations. So we hear the verbiage around us, and we see it in systems around us, and we use it every day. And it's important to understand that all of this that Jordan is talking about is vibrations, right? That is the fundamental piece that ties all communications together, is how things vibrate, at what they're vibrating. So there's always something that sends something that sends the vibration, and then we develop something that's going to receive the vibration. And if in nature, another example is bees. They're a great example.
Yes.
And I know a lot of us are like, bees, what? They're swinging around. Yeah, I'm allergic. Don't talk about bees. But they are fascinating creatures in the fact that they will, if a bee is vibrating out of sync, then other bees from that hive will literally cling themselves to that bee and vibrate. And as Jordan was talking about with the tuning fork, that's kind of what's happening here. Are those bees that are attaching themselves to it are going to start vibrating and shaking a certain way to where that bee that is off rhythm is going to will end up in rhythm.
Yes.
And we do that as well when we are, having maybe the laying of hands on people, and we are speaking something into existence. That's one example spiritually that I can think of. Sitting around, mantras was a good one that Jordan talked about. When you start to use mantras and you're in a group meditating and you all are saying that mantra exactly the same, and one person is maybe off, they will adjust. So it is fascinating how we see these types of things all throughout every facet of life. I mean, our heartbeat it has a certain vibration, and if it doesn't vibrate like that, then the way it's supposed to, and it has an irregular rhythm to it, then we will go as far as stopping the heart and then jumping it again if it's serious enough. If they have arrhythmia to the point to where the body is going to, you could pass out, you could die. There's very serious side effects to your heart not vibrating at its resonant frequency.
Yeah, exactly. And if it's out of key, like any vibration, that is necessary for optimal functionality, that whatever that thing is, it can cause disease and it can cause degradation in the body and in the brain. It's like if certain hemispheres are not vibrating in sync, or if your brainwave patterns are off, or if you've taken certain stimulants, or you've indulged too much in alcohol, and all of these things have side effects. These are all vibratory causes and effects, and these side effects are derived from some type of induction. And like that tuning fork, once again, you may be disrupting the harmony of certain cells and certain organs because of certain stimulants, and then that throws off everything about your existence, because you have so many different rhythmic cycles within the human body. The circadian is one of the ones that most people are most familiar with. If there was too much sunlight, that would throw off our circadian rhythm. If there was too much night, that would throw off your circadian rhythm. So it's like, when people start working third shift, and they're like, I hate third shift.
It's real.
And it's like, well, why? Because biologically, we're not used to working at those hours, because we get up with the sun and we go down when it goes down and when the moon comes up, which, it doesn't come up or down, but,
relative.
The flat earthers are like, hey!
It's a flashlight. Sorry, if you're a flat earther, you're wrong. I'm sorry. It's just not real.
And, so, and then back to, we was talking about like the sun and, how massive it is and how powerful it is. And then the fact that we have a magnetosphere where its surface field strength is 50 to 65 microtesla. And that's a means of measuring magnetic fields. And it's not the only one. And then it has a resonance frequency as well. And the resonance frequency of the Earth is the Schumann resonance frequency, and it's 7.8 hertz. And, this protective mechanism of the magnetosphere houses and facilitates the expression of the atmosphere and all the layers of the atmosphere. And then within these layers, they have different composition and pressure and temperature and different properties that allow for life to exist. And all of these are vibratory layers of our atmosphere that allow for us to have ecosystems. We could get into the vibration of the tectonic plates in the earth shifting, and they have ones that pull back or push together, or they have transverse, where it causes different types of earthquakes, which are frequencies. And then this can throw off societal structures. It can, cause the collapse of economies. It affects life. So vibration, you could read a magazine and it could, it could throw you off. Vibration. You could, be breathing diaphragmatically. That could change your vibration. Or you could be breathing thoracically. That could change your vibration. You could be surrounded by certain colors. You could be watching certain commercials. We know that TV exposure, when they use certain color schemes for a reason. To sell products, or you see a woman in, her is showing. And it's like, oh, why did they do that? Because they're trying to induce a certain frequency. Why do we sit in certain positions in yoga, and why do we have certain bodily positions and motions in Tai Chi, martial arts, etc.? Like, when they say they have certain words that they'll say to stun an enemy. You know what I mean? Like, and they'll shout it. And then if it's shouted at the right frequency, it could halt you. And then it gives the fighter time to throw a strike or block something, or what I mean? Like, so using vibration practically is something that we do all the time, whether we're aware of it or not. We're always using it. You're using your auditory sensibilities to process these sonic oscillations coming through this microphone.
Yeah, exactly. We are just as good, in closing, we are just as good of mechanisms as expressing vibrations as we are in receiving vibrations. And Jordan just listed a few of both. So it's not that our mechanism is built specifically for one or the other, and that is another key component as to why vibration is the key to communication. So, as I've said in past videos, be spiritually selfish. Spiritually selfish. And what I mean by that is take care of yourself. Transmute those vibrations. Right? Make sure that you are aware of all of the different things in your environment that are transmitting, and know that you are the receiver. But know that you can transmute those and then go ahead and send those messages back out to whatever's going to receive it. And that's how the transmutation happens. Was there anything you'd like to say in closing to vibrations?
Hey, vibrate your finger down to that like button and subscribe.
Shameless.
Shameless.
Yeah, please do that. As we talked about in the beginning, it helps us more than money, and it helps someone else out there. When you see that homeless person and you see that individual who's depressed at the grocery store, and you can just tell, we could reach them. You don't need to go up and say, hey, we know of universal theory that can turn your life around. But just know that when you share the video, those are the types of people that you could reach. You could save somebody's lives. And I'm not saying that with any kind of pride. I'm not saying that with any kind of ego. But I'm saying it with love. This message is not out there. And people are searching for it. And you found it. You're the lucky few that found it at the beginning. So please pass this along. Share this with your neighbor. Next week is going to be polarity. So if you have the Kybalion, we will have that linked. There's a great book about vibration that we'll have in the links below that talks about water. We'll go ahead and link that one. It's a really good read about how water is it is very receptive to what kind of energetic vibrations are projected towards it. So that'll be linked down below as well as research papers to these topics that we talked on tonight. We love you. Peace.
Yeah, don't talk to me, it's off to me. Assault police, the artistry's my carpentry. It's carpeting for all of these. For some seeds, a chocolate scene, I'm Charlie Sheen. I darken dreams, the carpet bleeds, my pulpit leaves a scar with your whole face like a Carter scene. I go hard cause the car to me. You ain't hard as he, or the yard hate. Bar hate, it's the Nazarene. Choke a line with a mane, I'm a martyr king. Yeah, I'm a god, so it's all with me. Pull at your heart, I'm chewing at your arteries. Damn, for the artistry, the artist bleeds, I'm martyring your darling. It's all with me. Get lost at sea, shout the priest, stomp the beast. I do not play, it's often seen. I'm off the boat, got a blade on me, homie, I'm off the go. I don't know, but you niggas put them off the dose, or off the smoke, a cough, a choke, a puke up a coffin toe, with a whole body in it like a mafia joke. Off the coast like mafios, my posse grows like poppy fields. Got a Glock on my side, but it's not the quote. I got the tree, I got the rope, I got the crown, I got the throne. I'm not the Pope, I am the Lord. Goddamn your soul, the gamut grows, the ganja pose, a cannon show. Plow, I'm a blast like my hand and drone. I control the whole globe with a Thanos glove. Jewels on my wrist from the planet dust. You're messing with a god like I am the code. I am the code, the camera froze, they cannot cope. They plan to post, but I'ma kill them all. With the plan I wrote, the antidote, the man I spoke. I gave him life, but I'ma end them all. I'ma ram and close the brand and palm volcanic rhymes. The man I lie, the fans are spawns. I chant the rhyme, my glands are God. You cannot stop the Metatron, the messenger. The Messiah, the master of the last of dawns, the mastodon, the razor-tooth dragon that'll blast your pawns and make your king disappear with a magic wand. Be gone. The path them on, get a wrapped in gauze and ripped by claws and smash your skull. Your pass baton, the gap is large. I'm way too far. I'm past the stars, galactic bars, the acid pause. I rap in fours and tundra sword, the guns on board. Wakanda Lord, the jungle boy. You come some more, come for war. And I made the mongrels mourn. I'm hungry for the lungs of yours. Your tongue's in cold, my stomach roars. I munch on gourds, running force, the hunter's board. Hunt for sport, slap a pole and punch a horse.